I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker for today, Eric Lawson. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. I heard already that we have MakerSpace here in Littleton. How about the rest of you? Have we heard the term MakerSpace before? Or Maker Mindset, Genius Hour, hackathons, all the kinds of stuff. So I'm here to talk a little bit about MakerSpaces and some of the things that we do in York with MakerSpaces. So let me start off by introducing myself a little bit, why I got into MakerSpaces and where sort of that passion for that came from. If I can find the mouse. There it is. All right, so my name is Eric Lawson. I'm the Director of Tech and Libraries for the York School Department up in York, Maine. I brought a few of my peeps along with me too, my network admin, Tom Roop, who's presenting, and my tech coach, who's in charge of MakerSpace at the middle school, Nick Schumann, who is also presenting. We had somebody last session, Annette Sloan, who's our tech coach at the elementaries that presents. She couldn't make it this week because she's actually doing marble runs right now in our MakerSpace at Village Elementary School for a Maker Camp. And you'll see some of the photos there. But I wanted to throw that shout out to them before we get started too. I am a certified trainer in the Innovator with Google. In the fall of 2014, I applied to the Google Teacher Academy and got in London. And if you've never done that, it's definitely something that you want to go for if that is a passion of yours. I learned so much from that. Basically what you do is you have to take the test that Google talks about, and those certification boot camps and things like that that the AppsEvents team do help prepare you for that. And then you apply online, and 50 people worldwide get to go to these innovator camps. They used to be called Teacher Academies, now they're the Innovator Academies. So I got to work with an international team while I was over there. And here's the 50 people that were here in London with me. But then my team, which was known as, the team formerly known as Aquarius, I don't know how that came up there, but we had an international team from New Zealand and Ireland and England, Amsterdam, and a couple more Irish folks as well. And I was the one lone American in this. But basically before the Innovator Camp got going, we had to come up with some problems that we saw in schools. What were some of the things that we found trending as problems in our schools? And it was funny because we're all over the world with this team, but we found that many of the same problems that we have here in America, we were seeing in other countries as well. The one that we decided was the one we wanted to work on for our moonshot thinking was that kids know all of this stuff about tech, right? I mean, you can go into a second grade classroom and they're on the iPads and they're doing stuff that blows me away. I mean, certainly if you think about school 10 years ago. But then what we realize is by the time they get into middle school, high school, yeah, they know all this tech stuff, but they're not always thinking about what are they posting online, and is that ethically correct? And that's when digital ethics come in, and citizenship, which is what Nick Schumann teaches at the middle school. So we had to find a way to bridge this gap. How do we make it so that teachers can learn from the kids with the tech skills, but the kids can learn from the teachers about digital ethics and what maybe not to post online, and be smart about your digital profile or your footprint? So we went to moonshot thinking, and I think that's the stuff that we need to do. And that's what got me creating what is a MakerSpace in York. How do we get some places like Google headquarters or places where you can feel innovative and it's not attached to grades necessarily, and it's not all about making standard or meeting a certain expectation or a checklist by teachers. So let's take a look at what a MakerSpace is. And I love this little video because it was created in a MakerSpace. like I said, I love that video because it talks about all the things that can happen inside of a makerspace, and it was created in a makerspace itself. So let's talk a little bit more about makerspaces. When people ask me, how do you create or invent makerspaces, what is it actually? I love this quote. There's no blueprint for a makerspace because it can take on a different look depending on the learners, facilitators, space, and needs involved. So my makerspace may look different than yours, and elementary schools might look different than a middle schools or a high schools, and it should be that way. It shouldn't be a blueprint of this is what we should put into every single school, like your traditional computer labs used to be. In fact, anybody know what this is? It's a little dark. You see it? Any Harry Potter fans out there?
Neville Longbottom.
Well, it is Neville Longbottom, but he's about to enter the room of requirement, right? The room of requirement, which if you were watching the Harry Potter weekend on Freeform, it's a room that a person can only enter when they have real need of it. Sometimes it is there and sometimes it is not, but when it appears, it is always equipped for the seeker's needs. That's Dobby, the house elf's explanation to Harry. I think that's exactly what we should be talking about when we're developing makerspaces. It's a little tricky. In Harry Potter, they have wands and magic, and they can make that happen all the time, but that is what we're trying to create with our makerspace. Very difficult to think about. But then the bigger question is the makerspace, the physical space, the biggest part of the conversation, or is there something bigger than that? And in my eyes, the maker mindset is bigger than that. This is a whole school thing. This is a whole district thing. This should be a whole country thing. We've gotten a little too far with standards-based grading, which I love because it kind of puts some consistency, it makes people accountable, all that good stuff. But then there's some breakage points where kids realize they have to do just this to get to here. Whereas the maker mindset says, all right, I have my own problem I'd like to solve. How do I go and do that? So instead of just doing verbatim what the teacher asked us to do, we're actually trying to solve things for the better good. So the maker mindset is a bigger picture than the maker space itself. All right, I have to introduce my girls here. I have a 4.5-year-old Elsa and a 2.5-year-old girl named Lily at home. And Elsa likes to think of herself as the real Elsa. We like to tell people she came out before the movie. Eventually I'll let her go. These kids are creative, right? Every single day I wake up to something new. The 4.5-year-old wants to put on a festival every day. There's shows involved, there's dancing, everybody gets involved. And every night we talk about how can we make that better. Right now she's constructing a miniature golf course in our basement because it's been raining in Wells for 3 days. And she can't go mini golfing with me because I'm at the conference, so she's going to build one so that when I get back we can play. Obviously very creative. And kids innately are creative when they're born, I believe. The problem becomes, by about 2nd, 3rd grade, we start to get into this checklist mode, right? And it's sad because we start to get to the point where, oh gosh, we have to do this to pass it for the teacher so I can be done with this and then I can get to do that. Kind of go away from the centers-based style of school and it becomes more a little bit on the lecture-based. And I'm not saying all of you do that. Obviously not. You're here in the middle of the summer learning about this stuff and wanting to connect with other people. But I think generally we start to do that, and that's what we want to try and break a little bit away from. So I want to talk more about big concepts and the moonshot thinking. And I use the hashtag New Hampshire Maker Ed that Caitlin has branded. And if you're interested in going to more Makerspace sessions, she's doing follow-ups with Jessica. If you didn't get a chance to do the paper airplane challenge, I suggest you do that before you leave today too. And also there's the hashtag MakerSpace. How many people are on Twitter? Quite a few. And if you're not, you should probably jump on just so you can try and win a backpack today, right? It's worth it. Heck, your first tweet could be I'm a winner. It'd be great. But yeah, use the hashtags because I built my PLN around this too. We were kind of the first in Southern Maine to come up with the MakerSpace actual space in the schools, but this PLN has definitely boosted it for us. Here's Google's version of moonshot thinking, which I love.
The actual moonshot is wonderful, inspirational, poetic, beautiful, involved great technical challenges, genuine heroism. It brought the world together. But think about a Polynesian islander on the dugout canoe, deciding one day they were going to go that way. No one had ever been that way before. No one even knew if there was anything that way before. It was amazing, and it changed the world.
People can set their minds to magical, seemingly impossible ideas, and then through science and technology, bring them to reality. And that then sets other people on fire, that other things that look impossible might be accomplishable.
Galileo is such a hero, in thinking big, and what he represents to me is both curiosity and wonder that humanity had, that pushed him and drove himself to invent and work on the first telescopes that allowed us to see the moon, and here we are.
These aviation pioneers were figuring it out as they went. No one really knew how to build an airplane, right? No one knew how to fly an airplane. It was amazing and crazy and wonderful, and they wanted to explore.
Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked why did he want to climb it. He said because it is there.
There's so many challenges in the world, and you can feel daunted by that, and sort of oppressed by that, or you kind of say, how might we think differently about this?
Everyone else in the world is working on the next 10%. If you can be the one that delivers that 10 times improvement, you have a chance to really change things.
If you want cars to run at 50 miles per gallon, fine, you can retool your car a little bit. But if I tell you it has to run on a gallon of gas for 500 miles, you have to start over.
You need a lot of courage in this work, and you need a lot of persistence. One of the things that's really critical is not only having the courage to keep trying every day or thinking big, even if you don't really 100% believe it's possible, like you might think, this might be possible, have the courage to try. That's how the greatest things have happened.
You don't spend your time being bothered that you can't teleport from here to Japan, because there's a part of you that thinks it's impossible. Moonshot thinking is choosing to be bothered by that.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Humanity's progress has been a series of amazing, audacious things, from the very small and personal up to the great, big, and grand. And we are a species of moonshots. And to me, that's like the really amazing, poetic, and inspirational thing.
I think our ambitions are a glass ceiling on what we can accomplish.
When you find your passion, you're unstoppable. You can make amazing things happen. It's been true through all of history.
I believe in the human spirit, and I believe that there are always going to be crazy people who will get out of bed one morning and say, you know what? I think I can build a space element. I most of them do it. But I think that if we become afraid to take these great big risks, we stop inspiring people. We stop achieving things. And the biggest nightmare scenario is that we won't have what it takes to solve the really big challenges.
When Kennedy said that we would put a man on the moon, it's about the fact that he said, we don't know how to do this yet, and we're gonna do it anyway. And that sends chills up everybody's spine. Because if that happens, what couldn't we do?
I love playing that movie before we start talking about makerspaces in new places, because it does kind of inspire that moonshot thinking. My two biggest takeaways, though: one, how cool is it that the guy who's in charge of Project X's Google's name is Astro Teller? I mean, right? He's probably cliched for that role right off the bat. The other one, though, that I really like is you can tool a car to run on 50 gallons, right? And you can retool it, but if you have to do 1 gallon and go 500 miles, you have to completely reconstruct it and start over. And I think that's the part that sometimes we're missing in education. We know there are parts that we need to work on, and we try to do little things, and in some places that works, but in other places it's just a band-aid. We do need to think about retooling. And I say that because we kind of retooled some of our spaces. How many people are familiar with Dr. Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset, right? This is another big picture to the maker mindset. If you have this fixed mindset, it's, oh, I can't do this, or it's some of the things you heard in that video where it basically says, we haven't talked about trying to do a time traveling machine to Japan because we can't do it, right? But instead, let's think about why. Why does that bother me that we can't do that yet? Is there something that I can solve to make that better or achieve that? We have to get away from the instead ofs, try thinking about these. And I'm pretty sure if you think about your educational career, whether it was as a student yourself or whether you're as an educator, probably the thing you remember the most wasn't something that came very easily to you. It was something that was a challenge, or something that the student that you're teaching was a challenge, and you got to that aha moment, and that was what made it happen. That's that growth mindset. I can achieve it. How do I get around it? What else can I solve? Here's a great video, again by Google, by Erno Rubik, the guy who created the Rubik's Cube, and he asks whether or not we should be asking more questions in schools rather than giving answers.
Imagine the awesomest thing you can, like an automatic grilled cheese maker, or a time machine, or a time machine with an automatic grilled cheese maker. Now imagine who's going to invent it. Him? Glasses here? Whoever they are? Or maybe her? But how do kids like these become the types of people that do things like this? Maybe we should ask this guy.
Knowledge is habit. Sometimes it's a limit to have new ideas. That's the problem with the old schooling, because they were teaching answers. I believe questions are probably more important today than the answers.
Erno's cube is a question waiting to be answered. And when the right person finds the right question, something amazing happens. They start seeing the world as it truly is. Not a place to be memorized, but a place to be figured out, flipped, turned, twisted, and ultimately made better, forever. Today, she may be an octopus, but help kids like her fall in love with problem solving, and they will embark on journeys to become scientists, artists, engineers, designers, inventors, or something no one's ever been before, but you can bet we're gonna need. That's why moments like this, go, and this, and this, and especially this, are so important. Because there are companies to found, planets to walk on, time machines to invent, a future to be made amazing. We may not know what it's going to look like, but we know who's going to do it.
So that's why I fell in love with MakerSpace and the maker mindset. It's trying to get the kids to understand their passion. My friend Rush from Hurley out in California has this quote that he uses a lot in his keynotes, and I believe it to be very true, especially in the MakerSpace. And that's the stuff they'll remember forever. Anybody familiar with John Hattie's work? Okay, John Hattie talks about, he's had a whole bunch of data and research based on greatest effects on student learning. So it occurs when the teachers become the learners of their own teaching and when students become their own teachers. Gosh, I can't think of a better place than MakerSpace. In fact, I'll show you some of his data on the research. Here is his what works best in raising student achievement. Things like television, holding back in school retention, summer vacation are negative points. As you go up the scale, you see greater and greater achievement, and at the highest point is student visible learning. Again, when a kid can walk into a space, or it doesn't matter what the space is, but can come up with their own solution to their own problem, share it out with people, and then teach people how they got there, I can't think of a better way to show student visible learning. Google's philosophy is launch early, iterate often. That's something we sometimes don't think about in school, right? By the time you go to pass it in, that should be your final product, you're done. Well, why do we teach that if that's not necessarily how the real world works? If the real world is, hey, I have this great product, it's pretty good, but I know I'm going to keep working on it, we should be launching some of their projects quicker and saying, what else could you do better, and make it a longer project. Again, that's tough because where you take that out of the curriculum and all the other stuff, but I truly believe in that philosophy. We need a place where students can tinker, create, collaborate, think critically about solving a problem. A safe place where failure is expected and revelations are inspiring. Failure. Now there's something you don't hear as a good thing in school very often, right? If you ask a kid, well, what's it like to fail in school, I guarantee they're not smiling when they talk about it. But yet in the MakerSpace, we have kids fail all the time and they're giggling about it because it's fun, right? Whether their rocket launcher accidentally launched at the wrong thing or the wrong aspect of it broke, they're laughing about it because they know now how to fix that and make it better. New Vision's Cloud Lab, who makes a lot of the add-ons for Google, has this philosophy. Moonshots begin with schools that tinker, and I agree with that 100%. So what if I allowed you to learn about anything in my classroom? Anything at all. Well, welcome to Genius Hour. It's your time to explore, right? You can explore anything you want, and this is a new kind of philosophy floating around. It's not new in the fact that nobody's ever tried this before, but the verbiage is a little bit new. So 20% time, some people raised their hands when they saw that. 20% time is something that Google's been kind of famous for, allowing their workers to spend 20% of their workday on something they find inspiring that's not necessarily part of the project they do. And again, it doesn't matter what verbiage you use in your schools as long as it's consistent within your schools. But Google has some pretty amazing stats on 20% time. So again, Google employees get to spend 20% of their work week on something they enjoy, and yet here's the stat that I love the best, the percent of the products that originated from 20% time. 50% of Google's products. I'm not just talking about self-driving cars and hot air balloons that beam Wi-Fi down to third world countries, because those are happening too. I'm talking about Gmail. Gmail was a 20% time project. It was somebody who was using Outlook Express at Google and said, you know what, I think I can make this better on the web. And they created Gmail in their own time. This is the kind of stuff we have to be inspiring in school. So let me take you to our MakerSpace so you can get a glimpse of this. And if you're ever up in York, Maine, or want to come up and travel, by all means come for a visit. And you can contact me. I'd love to show you the spaces and have you chat with the kids and the teachers that are in there. But in order to launch our MakerSpace, what we did was we took our aging computer lab. And in our earliest elementary school where it all started, the lab computers were getting to be 10 to 11 years old. Sound familiar? And our kids are what, 6, 7, 8? So something's wrong here, right? We're teaching them stuff that's already outdated and we're supposed to be preparing them for the future. Something's wrong. So I said to the staff, at a staff meeting early on, hey, we can do what we've always done. I've got budget money, we can make this a new lab and put in all new computers, but I'm probably gonna have this conversation with you again in 8 to 10 years. Or we can do something really inventive and innovative and try something completely new. We can rip it all out, make it blank, and you can all come up with what you want the space to be. We talked about the room of requirement and MakerSpace and some of the videos that I just showed you. And we launched it at a staff meeting. We said, here's some stuff to play with. Here's some tables where there's direction, like you have to create this like a challenge. And here's others where you're just gonna play on your own. What we need you to do at the end is document it and fire back with feedback at the end. What did you do? What did you like about it? How could you use it in your space? Well, it was great because by the time the staff meeting was ending, we couldn't get the staff to leave. Does that sound familiar at staff meetings? Because where I'm from, it's usually, oh, see you later, see you later, see you later. They wanted to stay at the staff meeting. So we said, all right, we've hooked the staff. How do we hook the students? Because they're going to be our biggest learners. We also want this to be a community makerspace. It's not just about school. Anybody from the whole community can come in, including you if you want to come up. But we wanted to make sure the students had ownership on it. So the first visit they had, they branded the space and they created signage. We had Tinker toys and beads, and you can see all this stuff here. And they created signs all around the room to label our makerspace. So the school motto at Village Elementary School, where it started, is I think I can, I know I can, and you can too. And the kids all did whoop whoop in the beginning, right? It was after the pledge. We do it every single morning. They finally didn't do that for some reason, but because of that, the kids said, let's call the makerspace the creation station, because it matches our theme of the train, and we think we can. We know we can, you can too. And of course the adults in the room said, yeah, and let's say full steam ahead too, so that it kind of correlates to the curriculum. That way the school board will be fine with it, right? And the kids said, sure, sounds good, I don't care. But we wanted to brand everybody. So it starts at the early elementary, but we've lost the other people. We had people at the high school saying, oh man, what about us? We were at that school 10 years ago, what happened? So we had a contest in their digital arts program to create a sign for us. And then everybody who created a sign went into a voting pool and the kids voted for it, all across the district and the school board. And this is the sign that came out. So let's talk about our physical space for a second that we did. This was our computer lab. Look familiar? Right? A bunch of terminal desktops, teachers at the front. Often I would walk in as a tech integrator, the teacher would have something on the board and then say, all right, everybody, do just that. And then, all right, step 2, everybody be quiet, hands on your head, right? Sound familiar? A lot of integration going on. Not so much. So we were looking at how do we innovate that and change it up and flip it around. Well, there's our MakerSpace now. That's the same computer lab. So you notice there's no more computers. We've gutted everything. We have electrical supplies hanging from the ceilings. We have lots of consumables everywhere. These tables were built by a local lumber store and donated to us with wheels so that they could be moved at any point, because flexibility is hugely key in MakerSpace. It's at perfect kid level, so they can sit on it, they can roll it around, or they can just stand right there. You'll notice that there's still seats in the back if we need them, but they're hardly ever used, because this is a space where busy chaos is constantly happening. We do have organized chaos, as I like to call it, and I used to actually call that in my classroom when I taught 3rd grade. Some people thought it was poor classroom management skills, but hey, whatever. Organized chaos is big, and it can be tricky to showcase how that works. Some people see it as just chaos, but where the learning comes out of it is huge. So we had a little student who wanted to introduce MakerSpace, and she created her own video on what it was in MakerSpace. I don't have time to show it now, but I certainly will post the links later if you want to take a look at it. We also got some donations, which is key, because you have to have some money to get a jump start. With donations, I would suggest that you get non-consumables, because they want to see their money kind of effectively work longer than just a year. So we bought tools, and we bought things that we're going to use for year after year after year. The consumables, which is on the right here, where Maribel is pointing out all the tubs, we went to a recycle shop, and we had parents constantly donate things in. Those are the things that we're going to constantly ask for. We want to actively construct with a product in mind. So we have paper bag challenges, where kids walk in, they grab a paper bag, it's got a quick set of directions, and they have to construct something. Sounds a lot like Odyssey of the Mind, right? Build the tower as high as you can. In this case, how do you get that pom-pom to launch as far as you can with the supplies in the bag? Okay? To me, that's like step one of a makerspace. Anybody could do that in any space, and it's pretty good, but it's not exactly what we're looking for. But it certainly jump-starts the idea. We do want some tinkering going on, so we have a tinker table in our makerspace. This is a spot where anybody can play with anything, but they know they're not going to save anything. Everything goes back into the bin, and the next person can tinker with it. We also have spaces in the physical location where kids can engineer and take what is known and apply it to the real world. So you notice we do still have tech in this place. It just became mobile. We have carded Chromebooks, and that's because we realize that not everybody's going to need it in the space, and it's not going to be everybody do this, and we're going to go back to the step one. They're going to take things and learn from it. So in this case, they're at the take-apart table, and they're taking apart a piece of technology, and the kid over here on the left with his two shirts says, "Hey, I don't know what this piece is." And his buddy says, "Don't worry, I'll Google it. I'll just do a reverse image search." Second grade. This is fantastic. So technology in our makerspace has a real purpose to me now, all of a sudden. I mean, it did beforehand, but it all depended on the lesson. Now we've got people actually using it to apply their knowledge. The iPads are used to film and to document what they've done or created, or even the learning process, because a lot of time the process is much better than the project or the product at the end, right? The Chromebook card is used for research and to label things. We have to stop being the comfortable experts and become the restless learners. Holly Clark says this, and I agree with that quote. I think sometimes it's tough for us as teachers to let go of what we control or everything that we know and allow the kids to kind of teach us. In a makerspace where you give them a little bit of time to explore on their own, they become the presenters. I didn't take the projector away in the computer lab, if you noticed in that picture. It was not because the teacher's going to demonstrate something at the front. It's because the students are then presenting something after they've created it, or their process. A lot of times the kids will say, "Here's what I've come up with so far, but I'm at a dead end. Can anybody see what I might do better?" Holy cow. That's exactly what we want to create in school and inspire. So the other thing that we started to do too, where we didn't have the space like a computer lab to gut, we started creating or turning our libraries into learning commons, where makerspaces became part of the library. So instead of having all just consumables or consumption happening in the library, where you go to do research, you go to check out books, people were creating things in that space as well. And we did some small things. Like for instance, we took whiteboard marker paint and painted all the tops of the tables. Pretty simple, just a gallon of paint. You can go to Lowe's, Home Depot and get some. And now kids are brainstorming ideas on the tabletops. Don't worry, they do that anyway, right? With the pencils, you just didn't want it to happen. Now you do. And it's easier to clean with this whiteboard marker. We took a wall and we green screened it. Just a wall, green screen paint, and I'll show you. You can actually go to Home Depot and ask for the Gamma Sector Green paint. It's not in there anymore because the Toy Story movie's out, if you remember that scene, but you can ask for it, and if you take a picture of this, they'll actually mix it for you. Remember that scene in Toy Story? The claw. That was that Gamma Sector Green color. So what got it all started for us was just one event. We had a school nurse, actually, over at Coastal Ridge Elementary School that said, "You know what, we need to do something with the whole school involved that's going to have all kinds of curriculum thrown into it, but we're not going to do it for a grade, we're going to do it for pure enjoyment." We had all these boxes from shipments being put in that we had to recycle, and we said, "We've got to do something." And he said, "You know what, this whole school and this whole area of York is about community. Let's create Cressopolis, which is this new miniaturized community where the kids get to build anything they want that they could have, that isn't in their town or is in their town, and make sure that it's located so that they can figure out how it all works together as a community. And it was all with a cardboard. And it was because of this cardboard challenge. Does anybody remember Kane from California, this little boy? All right, I'll introduce this video then real quick. So Kane had to sit next to his dad, who has an auto body shop out in California. And he gets all this stuff from online shipments, cardboard boxes everywhere, right? He's bored out of his mind because his dad has to have him just sit there, and he says, all right, I'm gonna start creating stuff with these cardboard boxes. Well, he was big into arcades at the time, but he was a shy kid, he wasn't great in school. And he said, you know what, I'm gonna build an arcade out of all this cardboard, and I'm gonna create fun passes, and anybody who comes to visit my dad's shop can play a couple of games while they wait for the bills to be processed and to get the parts. Well, all of a sudden, this guy who needs just a door handle for his car, who happened to be a filmographer, did a quick documentary on Kane, and it became a cardboard movement across the country.
This all started with going to buy a door handle. It was last summer, and I went down to this random used auto parts store, and I met this 9-year-old boy named Kane.
I'm Kane.
Who had taken over his dad's store with this elaborate cardboard arcade. It was his first customer.
He saw something in my son that nobody else saw, and he made a film about it.
I posted the film online 4 months ago. Little did I realize that both of our lives were about to change.
Finally, tonight we have a great story out of Los Angeles, East LA to be precise.
When you're a lonely 9-year-old boy, an empty cardboard box can be a universe of possibility.
I found this great story. I want to share it with you. They're lining up to play at his cardboard arcade.
This kid made his own arcade.
A filmmaker discovered Kane's arcade, and now it's a movie.
When I first posted the film, I had a goal of trying to raise $25,000 for Kane's scholarship fund.
I figured out when he's dreaming.
That night, my phone just started ringing off the hook. Donations were coming in.
Here's a live look at Kane's arcade where you can see there's a long line of people.
The next day, it was over 100,000. I was like, what is going on?
A 9-year-old boy now has a huge college fund.
He's the talk of the town. He is the billionaire.
What's next for this precocious 9-year-old?
The video came out on Monday.
Nearly 2 million people have watched it.
By Saturday, we have 4-hour lines waiting to play Kane's Arcade.
The little boy's dream came to life.
I got some customers there.
I told my dad that was the best day of my life.
Celebrities were tweeting. Kane's Arcade was trending on Twitter worldwide. It hit the front page of Reddit, and people started coming from around the world to visit Kane's Arcade.
UK, London, Spain, everywhere.
They've been flying in, taking taxis from the airport directly to Kane's Arcade.
Jack Black even came back with his kids to play. But for me, the most inspiring thing was the wave of cardboard creativity inspiring kids around the world.
Hi kids, this is me, Jojo Rowan from Facebook. I met you, and this is my bubblegum machine.
My name is Cloud Basketball Crew, and if you get all 4 balls, you get a pencil.
Prize, Abby.
It's called Tilt-A-Ball. It's made with popsicle sticks. Exciting for the game.
My name is Ezra, and I'm in this pinball machine. And I got the idea by watching my dad's computer. So then the coin slots.
I get 10 tries.
I need a same game as like this, but everything's different.
That's the one that I watched too. Awesome. And I love your arcade. Man, I don't know what to say. You're just famous.
Kane has grown a lot. I mean, first of all, he's literally grown a lot. He's probably outgrown 2 staff shirts, and we had to make him a boss shirt.
I'm the boss. It's a lot of work.
Kane has really come out of the shell. He talks to everybody he doesn't stutter anymore, and he's doing way better in school.
One of the things I've learned from this experience is how a small gesture can change the life of a child. And to think that there's so many other kids like Kane out there who just need somebody to come in and buy a fun pass. So we started the Imagination Foundation. So the Imagination Foundation's mission is to find, foster, and fund creativity and entrepreneurship in kids like Kane.
I see a lot of promise in the Imagination Foundation as a way of advocacy for kids' interests.
One of the greatest challenges I think we face in education is tapping into children's natural powers of creativity. And one of the appeals of Kane's Arcade is it's demonstrating how deep those powers are and how readily people will rise to the challenge if you give it to them.
It's not enough anymore just to learn the basic kinds of language arts and math skills. Our children need to be innovators and inventors.
And I think if we can make that systemic in our education system, we will transform the world for our children and for ourselves.
After we started the foundation, the first thing we did is we hit the ground running with the school pilot program. Within the first 2 months, over 100 schools in 9 countries participated using project-based learning to teach kids math, science, and engineering.
I told Kane that when I was a kid, I also built cardboard rockets. These were space capsules that we could actually fly in our backyard. And here I am, many years later, and I'm still building a spacecraft. This one, a real one that landed on Mars.
So the idea is not only to give kids the tools to build the things that they can imagine, but to also imagine the world that they can build.
Childhood imagination will take you from cardboard to this in just a few years.
Ready for liftoff? It's Kane, great to you. On October 6th, the 1-year anniversary of that flash mob we did for you. To make your day this year, we do the Global Cardboard Challenge, inviting the whole world to play. This October 6th, the 1-year anniversary of the flash mob we did to make Kane Day, the Imagination Foundation is launching the Global Cardboard Challenge. Here's how to play. Go to cardboardchallenge.com and sign up to host an event or find an event near you. If you want, you can set a fundraising goal to support the Imagination Foundation. Then invite everyone you know to come out and play.
It doesn't matter how old you are. I use cardboard and imagination.
You can build an arcade, a robot, a rocket ship, anything you can imagine. There's events already being planned in kitchens in Idaho, school districts across Texas. There's a cardboard amazement park being planned in Impala. The idea is just to bring the whole world together to play and celebrate creativity and imagination. For me, this all started with a door handle, and I ended up buying a fun pass. And for Kane, it started with this small basketball hoop that he won as a prize and built this whole arcade around. This October 6th, we're inviting the world to come together for a global day of play and just imagine what we can build.
Don't have a space set aside in your school. Mindset's bigger than that, and all it may take is one day or one challenge like this to spark some imagination. Give a kid a chance to succeed where regular schooling may not be the ticket for that kid. So we have a map up in Maine where it shows all the makerspaces, hackerspaces, and hackathons and all that stuff's going on, so that you can check back and find out where it's going. It's continually growing. I want to know when I can find your pin down here, so that we can kind of travel back and forth and see what everybody's doing and make both of our spaces or our schools better. So once again, I thank you for listening to the Makerspace. I hope you learn a lot at the GIE Summit here over the next couple days. And certainly if you're more interested in the Makerspace, go check out Caitlin and Jessica's follow-up sessions, because they'll let you play hands-on with some of the things that they're doing and learn a little bit more about the whole mindset that goes with it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.